What's going on, Colts Nation? I appreciate you joining me for another video where today we're going to talk a little bit more about the secondary and the conversation that I want to have. Obviously, we talked about Justin Simmons and what's going on with the safety position. We're in wait and watch mode at this point. What are we going to do? Who's going to end up being the starter? We presume it's going to be Nick Cross at free safety. And then at cornerback, right now, we assume it's going to end up being Juju Brents, Jalen Jones, Kenny Moore. And, the lack of depth is obviously an issue, but when you look at it like young guys that we're unsure of, I think Jalen Jones is going to be really good, but he's had some slip ups in training camp. Was a little up and down. I thought he did well in the preseason game, but wasn't perfect. Right, let up a catch or two for the little bit that he was in there. So, what are we going to do at that corner position? Right, is Dallas Flowers going to step up? He did not look good. He looked pretty bad in that first preseason game. So at the cornerback position, as I'm looking through and as you could see on the thumbnail, obviously we're thinking about, hey, let's go get Stephon Gilmore and bring him in, right? If we were going to do something in the secondary. And here's where I'm at with Stephon Gilmore. Before we go any further, this is where I want to make sure we have an understanding. Stephon Gilmore, with as old as he is, right? And not to say he's crazy old. He's had 12 years in the NFL. This is going to be his 13th season. So he's definitely one of the OGs in the NFL at this point. One of the older guys for sure. But when you really, when you look at it, he still produces, okay? And you could put him in, because he's older, you could put him in at safety, and maybe that could work. Okay, obviously not strong safety. That's going to be Julian Blackmon. Julian Blackmon is going to have a role closer to the line of scrimmage. Stephon Gilmore, you just put him back at safety with his skill and his instincts, with as smart as he is, and being even further back, being able to be in that safety position, being able to see the entire field and being able to dissect quickly what the offense is going to do. Like, what you could do with him at safety would be incredible. Okay, so that's why I'm bringing him up, because even if we do roll into the season with Juju and Jalen, which is what I'm hoping for, I hope both those guys can be really good, right? Coming out of the same draft class, it'd be cool if both those guys can just step up and play really well. So that's what I'm hoping for, and obviously you want Juju to stay on the field. Dallas Flowers, you hope that he finds his form again, right? Comes back into who he was before he got the injury last year when he was suiting up as the cornerback one. I thought he was playing pretty well. So for him to get hurt and for it to go the way it went, not great. For the way the game went in the first preseason game, not great. So hopefully he's able to bounce back. What if he doesn't, right? So there are questions among the cornerbacks, which would make it smart to bring in a guy like Stephon Gilmore, older guy. And obviously Stephon Gilmore was here and then wanted to be traded. And him and Chris Ballard agreed, hey, we're rebuilding right now. Let's go ahead and send you somewhere that could possibly win. He goes to the Cowboys, which I would assume was probably his pick, like trying to pick a team he would want to go to, and we were able to make something work. So at the end of the day, there are going to be people that say, no, we don't want Stephon Gilmore. We don't want if Stephon Gilmore was safety. Think about that. He comes back, right? We're ready to win. We seemingly have the team. If Anthony Richardson stays healthy, we seemingly have the team we need to go. If you put Stephon Gilmore at one of the cornerback positions, right? If it's Stephon Gilmore and Juju Brents as CB1, CB2, and then Kenny Moore in the slot, or Juju, Jalen, Kenny with Julian Blackmon and Stephon Gilmore as a strong safety and free safety, the defense is really good. Like we've been talking about Justin Simmons. Well, what about the possibility of taking one of these older corners and putting him at safety? At that point, would he want to come back, right? Now that we have a winning team, we did him a favor when he wanted to get out. We sent him to somebody that could be a contender and could win a lot of games. Because the relationship, I would assume, is still good, then is there a chance that we could possibly bring in Stephon Gilmore for him to fill in as a secondary guy like that, right? You saw, obviously, Charles Woodson is like the most obvious answer I can think of a guy that went from corner to safety, right? And he was able to extend his career doing so, right? And there's a history of that with some corners taking on that safety role. And because of that, I think, hey, maybe you can talk a guy like Stephon Gilmore into that. Somebody that is looking for the gold jacket one day, and maybe all he has to do is just add a couple years on the end of his career here. And if he's able to fill in at safety, and he can be more rangy, but doesn't have to down after down chase wide receivers around. Maybe he would be down with that, right? At his age, as long as he's been in the NFL, maybe you could talk him into that. And we have plenty of cap space to bring him in for whatever he would want. I mean, and when you think about stats, think about the numbers, like the last couple seasons, even dating back to his last year in New England, he only ended up having one interception. He had two interceptions with Carolina. When he only played 8 games. He had 2 interceptions with us and then 2 interceptions with Dallas. But the pass deflections have been there, right? 11 for us, 13 with Dallas. And that's one thing you can count on with Stephon Gilmore. Like throughout his career, his first year in the league, 16 pass deflections. Second year, 10. Fourth and fifth year, 18 and 12. The year he won Defensive Player of the Year, 2019, and the year before when he became an All-Pro for the first time, 20 pass deflections each of those seasons. So when you look at the numbers throughout his career, incredibly consistent as long as he's playing the games right. I see a lot of these seasons he doesn't play the full games. Now, last year, was one of the seasons he did play every game of the season. And with us, he played 16. I think he only missed a game because of, well, no, that was after the COVID. I don't know what he missed the game of. But he played 16 and 17 with us. So durability has been there throughout the end of his career, right? And then when you look at PFF, and if you watched the Cowboys last year at all, and they're on national television, you could have watched them a lot. He ends up with a 74.4 PFF grade. Take that for what you will. They're not always accurate with what they're saying. But Stephon Gilmore, just to say, Stephon Gilmore did perform well. And I agree. He probably could have had a higher grade, in my opinion. I thought Stephon Gilmore wasn't every corner is going to get got at some point. Stephon Gilmore, there's definitely tape out there of 1 or 2 instances last year where Stephon Gilmore got on a double move. But that's going to happen, right? That's going to happen with the corners we have. So I just think when you're thinking about the secondary as a whole, the safeties, out of all the safeties that are left, like I don't want any of them. We've talked plenty about them. We've looked at the list, and I'm at a point where I don't want any of them. So when you're looking at the corners that are available, Stephon Gilmore could be a depth corner for us, right? And if we need him to start a corner, we can have him start a corner. And then just having it cross a free safety like we planned, or go ahead and start the second year guys, Juju and Jalen, and put Stephon Gilmore with Julian Blackmon. And Stephon Gilmore has played in this system. He knows he's played in the Gus Bradley system. He knows what we're trying to do. He knows the different players on the defense, right? He was here with a lot of these players, right? So I just think there's a lot of value in bringing Stephon Gilmore back. Is it far-fetched? Yeah, it might be. We never even made an offer to Justin Simmons, so it's probably unlikely. But as you look forward and you're thinking the Colts have some cap that they can spend, how can they maneuver the roster right now? If you want somebody to be on the practice squad, you got to cut them. So there might be a little bit of like, who are we really comfortable with cutting so that we can still get them on the practice squad? And I understand that that's part of the game that they're playing, but I just think bringing Stephon Gilmore in, adding him to the room, add him to the room of safeties. I think that makes the decision a lot easier when you're talking about trimming down the safety room. You have a lot of safeties that you can probably just go ahead and get rid of. Who cares? Honestly, there are a couple of those on the roster. So I think that would be the move is to bring him in, have him on the depth chart, but you can just get rid of safeties. So I think it's a good idea. Obviously, these are my thoughts on it. Of course, I want to know what your thoughts are on this situation. You let me know what you're thinking on this situation down in the comments section. The more I think about this, like I was thinking of it, bring him in as corner. I was thinking, hey, I'm going to make a video about him coming in as corner and see what people think. And the more I sit here, and especially yesterday after Justin Simmons thing, I keep thinking like at his age, maybe you can get him to transition to safety. maybe that can be the answer for safety this year. And if you look at Nick Cross's rookie year, there are a lot of pictures. You go search Nick Cross's name, there are a lot of pictures of him and Stephon Gilmore. So he was trying to learn from Stephon Gilmore. He has a relationship there. Maybe he can get under Stephon Gilmore's wing and learn some things from a veteran guy in this league. So that's where my head's at on all this. Again, I'd love to know what you think about all this. What do you think about Stephon Gilmore coming back? What do you think about him transitioning to safety force and being in that role? You let me know your thoughts on all this down in the comment section. Of course, make sure you're subscribed with notifications on. Make sure you hit that like button as well for me. And of course, I appreciate you stopping by for another video. And as always, take care of yourself, take care of each other, and go Colts.